I am not the hero of this story. I know what you are expecting. You are expecting a mother's story to be about sacrifice and love and holding everything together. That is what mothers are supposed to be. That is the story we are allowed to tell about ourselves. This is not that story. This is the story of what I did to my son, to the woman he loved, to the life they were trying to build together, quietly, honestly, with nothing except each other and the kind of love that does not ask for permission. I destroyed it, not in one moment, not in anger, deliberately, patiently, with the full weight of a mother's authority and a woman who had spent her entire life believing that loving someone meant knowing what was best for them. My son is at a distance now that has no name, and I am sitting in the house I protected, the house I chose over his happiness. And I need someone to understand what that choice actually costs. So you never make it. I built this family myself. I want you to know that, not as an excuse, but as context. My husband was a good man, a quiet man. He provided what he could, and he loved us the way he knew how. But the decisions, the real decisions, the ones that shaped this family's position in the world, those were mine. The school choices, the social connections, the careful management of how we were perceived and who we were associated with. I was the architect of everything this family became. I am not saying this with pride. I am saying it so you understand the particular blindness that comes from being the person who holds everything together. When you are the one who built it, you begin to believe that your judgment about what belongs inside it is simply correct. Not opinion. Fact. My son Zain was 26 when he brought Mira home, and within 1 hour of meeting her, I had already decided. Not because she was a bad person, not because she was unkind or dishonest or wrong for my son in any way I could honestly name, because she was not what I had planned. And I had been planning Zain's life, carefully, lovingly, with every good intention a mother can hold, since the day he was born. A woman who had not grown up in our world, who did not understand its rules, who came without connections or status. She was a variable I had not accounted for, and I did not know how to love my son and also tolerate variables. That is the confession underneath the confession. Mira was 24. She came from a simple family, not poor, not struggling, simply ordinary in the way that most of the world is ordinary, and that I had spent my life making sure we were not. She walked into my home with a small box of sweets she had brought as a gift, handmade. She had made them herself. I found out later she had spent 2 evenings on them because she wanted to bring something personal rather than bought. I noticed that. I noticed everything about her. She was genuine in a way that my world, the world I had built, did not often produce. No performance, no calculation about how she was being perceived. She just sat at my table and spoke honestly and laughed when something was funny and was quiet when something was serious. And I noticed the way my son became around her. I had known Zain for 26 years. I had watched him in every situation: school, pressure, success, disappointment. I thought I knew every version of him. With Mira, he was a version I had never seen, lighter, more present. He listened to her the way he had never quite managed to listen to anyone, with his full attention, not waiting for his turn, actually taking in what she said. A mother who deserved her son would have seen that and felt only joy. What I felt was something I am ashamed to name even now. I felt replaced. I had been the most important woman in my son's life for 26 years. And in one dinner, without trying, without even being aware she was doing it, this girl had simply become more important. I told myself what I did next was for his future, for the family, for the life I had worked to build. That was a lie I told myself for 3 years. Mothers have weapons that no one warns you about. We have unconditional love, the kind our children have depended on since they were born and are therefore constitutionally unable to defend against. We have guilt. We have the slow drip of daily access, breakfast table comments, bedtime phone calls, the 1,000 small moments that nobody notices because they each look like nothing. I used all of them. I began with concern, gentle, maternal, completely plausible concern. Was Zain sure he knew her well enough? Had he considered how different their backgrounds were? Did he think about what it would mean for the family's social position? I framed every question as love, every interference as care. My husband saw what I was doing. He said so. Once. Directly. In the quiet of our bedroom. He said, "You are going to lose him over this. Leave it alone." I told him he did not understand. He stopped saying it after that. That is the thing about a woman who has run a household for 30 years. Eventually, everyone learns which battles she will not yield. I went to Mira's mother. I presented it as one mother speaking honestly to another. I told her that Zain was not ready for commitment, that he had a pattern of becoming deeply attached and then pulling away, that her daughter was a lovely girl and I was worried she would be hurt. None of this was true, not one word. Mira's mother was a trusting woman. She believed me because I was the boy's mother. Who would know better? I watched that conversation in my mind regularly, the cup of tea I held while I looked that woman in the eyes and dismantled her daughter's future. I watch it and I cannot look away from it. And then I introduced Zain to other women, subtly, strategically. Daughters of families I approved of who appeared at dinners that I arranged, and social occasions I managed. I never said, "This woman is better than Mira." I simply ensured that Mira always felt like the exception, and everyone else looked like the standard. It took 8 months. Mira ended things with Zain quietly. No confrontation, no accusations. She was too dignified for that. She simply removed herself, and she was gone. I expected Zain to grieve briefly and then return to himself. What happened instead was that the self he returned to was a smaller version. The lightness I had seen in him with Mira, that particular aliveness that I had told myself was infatuation and would pass. It did not come back. He did not confront me. He did not accuse me. He simply became quieter, more careful around me. The way a person becomes careful around someone they have stopped fully trusting but still love. I felt that change and I told myself it was grief, that he was healing, that time would do what time is supposed to do. He married someone I chose 2 years later. A good family, the right connections, everything that looked correct from the outside and was assembled correctly on the inside and produced a life. A functioning, adequate, completely loveless life. I attended their wedding and I cried. I told myself I was crying from happiness. I was not crying from happiness. I was crying because I could see, watching my son stand at that altar with a woman he had chosen, because there was no reason not to. What I had taken from him. I could see the absence of Mira in the way he held himself, in the way he smiled with his mouth but not the rest of his face. I saw it, and I said nothing, and I kept saying nothing for 2 more years. 3 years after Zain's wedding, I saw Mira in a shopping center. She was with a friend, laughing at something, completely unself-conscious, the same way she had always laughed. She had built a career. She looked, and I want to be precise about this word, she looked whole. The way a person looks when they have processed something painful and come out the other side without bitterness. She saw me. She did not look away. She did not become small or cold or perform the hurt she had every right to perform. She looked at me with calm, clear eyes, and she nodded, politely, briefly, and she continued her conversation with her friend. That nod, that single, dignified, completely unresentful nod, broke something in me that I had been holding together with the story I told myself about my own good intentions. I sat in my car in that parking lot for a long time, and for the first time, not the first time I had doubted myself, I had done that privately for years, but the first time I stopped defending myself to myself. I saw it all clearly. What I had done, why I had actually done it, what it had cost my son, what it had cost that woman, what it had cost my husband who had told me clearly and been dismissed, what it had cost me, though that was the least important cost, and I knew it. I drove home. I walked into the kitchen where my husband was reading. I sat down across from him. He looked up. I said, "You were right. 3 years ago, you were right, and I knew it, and I did it anyway." He put down his book. He did not say, "I told you so." He never has been that kind of man. He just said, "What do you want to do now?" I asked Zain to meet me alone. A restaurant, neutral ground, which told him immediately that something serious was coming. He came with the careful face of a son who has learned to protect himself from his mother's agenda. That face, the one I had taught him to wear, was the first thing that broke my heart that afternoon. I told him everything. I did not soften it. I did not frame it as complicated or well-intentioned or born from love. I told him what I had done, and I told him why I had actually done it, and I told him that the reason underneath all the other reasons was that I had felt replaced, and I had not known how to survive that feeling like an adult. He listened without moving. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that I have turned over every day since. "Mama, I already knew. Not the details, but the shape of it. I knew it was not natural. I knew something had reached into what Mira and I had and pulled it apart from the outside. I just could not name it, because naming it meant understanding that the person who did it was you. And I loved you too much to look at that directly. Mama, I already knew. Not the details, but the shape of it. I knew it was not natural. I knew something had reached into what Mira and I had and pulled it apart from the outside. I just could not name it, because naming it meant understanding that the person who did it was you. And I loved you too much to look at that directly. I wrote Mira a letter. 6 pages, handwritten. I told her about the conversation with her mother, every word as precisely as I remembered it. I told her about the social introductions, and the planted doubts, and the patient-sustained campaign I had run against, something that deserved to survive. I told her that she had done nothing wrong, that she had been exactly what my son needed, and that I had known it, and been threatened by it, and responded to that threat by destroying it. I told her I was not asking for forgiveness. I was asking for nothing. I just needed her to know, clearly, completely, that what had ended between her and Zain had not ended because of anything real. She did not respond for a month. Then a letter came, short, 3 paragraphs. I had already understood most of what you told me. not from anger. I moved through anger a long time ago. I want you to know that I am well. I am engaged to someone who chose me without conditions and whose family welcomed me without reservation. I am telling you this not to cause pain, but because I think you should know that the story did not end where you tried to end it. It found its own way. I hope you find peace, Mrs. Khalid. I genuinely do. But I have nothing left to offer you except that. She was engaged, happy, genuinely, completely, irreversibly happy, without my son, and without any chapter of the story I had tried to write for them. I folded that letter. I put it in the drawer of my bedside table. I have never moved it. Some nights I open the drawer, and I look at it without reading it, just knowing it is there. That letter from the woman I wronged who wished me peace and had the grace to mean it is both the most comforting and the most devastating thing in my life. Zain and his wife separated 18 months after my confession, quietly, without drama. They had been performing a life rather than living one, and eventually both of them ran out of the energy that performance requires. He lives in another city now. He has built something small and entirely his own, a business in a field I know nothing about, chosen without consulting me, shaped entirely by what he wanted rather than what I had planned. I hear he is doing well. We speak on the phone. The conversations are warm but short. He is careful with me in the way you are careful with someone you love and no longer fully trust. I accept that. It is what I made. My husband is still here. He has never once said I told you so. He is a better person than I deserve, and I have started trying, genuinely, practically, one choice at a time, to deserve him more. I am 62 years old. The house is quiet in a way it never used to be. Some days I sit in it, and I think about a girl who brought handmade sweets to a dinner and laughed without performing, and made my son more himself than I had ever managed to make him. And I think that was the one I should have held the door open for. Instead, I was the door. If you're a mother, hear me. Your child's life is not yours to architect. It never was. The love that built them does not give you ownership of the choices that define them. The moment you begin using your love as a tool to control who they become, you stop being their mother and become their obstacle. And the cruelest part, the part nobody tells you, is that they will love you anyway. They will protect you from the truth of what you have done because they love you. And that love, the love you are exploiting, will eventually become the distance between you. Because a person can only protect someone from the truth of their own damage for so long before the protection becomes too expensive. If you are a child living inside a version of this story right now, trust what you feel. The person who loves you without conditions is worth more than any approval, more than any inheritance, more than any version of a future that someone else planned without asking what you wanted. And if you are Mira, if you are the one who was pushed out by someone's mother or father or family, and you are somewhere right now building something beautiful without the person you lost, I want you to know, I see you. What was done to you was wrong, and the fact that you walked away with your dignity means you were always stronger than the people who underestimated you. I built this family, and then I broke the most important thing in it. That is the whole story. If this reached something in you, leave a comment. Tell me whose perspective you felt most. The mother, the son, or the girl who brought handmade sweets and deserved so much better than what she got. And if you are new here, subscribe. Because every week on this channel, someone tells the truth that most people spend their whole lives running from. And this one, I believe, is one of the most important ones we have ever told.